Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live with your host, Damon, the agent. Today is Friday, September the 8th, 2023. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today, where I bring you the latest real estate topic. And also, I have a special guest today who's going to be talking about credit repair, credit restoration, and also increasing your credit scores regardless of what you're doing in life, whether you're getting a credit card, car, or buying a house. And I also going to have my segment as far as my Q&A, and also I'm going to talk about a subject today is going to be talking about outside. Thank you Instagram for joining me, because last week I had some technical difficulties, but I won't have it today. So let me begin as always. Today's weekly topic is going to be my Q&A segment that I've been having, which has been really taken off. Plenty of people have been asking me a lot of questions when it pertains to real estate, so I've been answering them. And sometimes when I hop off, people also are still sending me questions. So I'm going to begin with the Q&A segment, and then I'm going to go into having my special guest on in probably about 15 minutes when I get through these questions. So if you also have any questions that you would like to ask pertaining to real estate, please feel free to post them. I will see them and I will address them accordingly. Okay, so the question right now is, if someone wants to buy a house for 250,000, their credit score is 750, and they have $20,000 to use towards the purchase of the home, how can they best allocate that money for it to be beneficial for them? Should they put a small down payment and put a large amount on the principal? Again, if someone wants to buy a home for 250,000, their credit score is 750, and they have $20,000 to use towards the purchase of the home, how can they best allocate that money for it to be beneficial for them? Should they put a small down payment and put a large amount on the principal? That's a great question. Whenever you're purchasing a home, understand you have more than just down payment as your cost. You also have closing costs. And then depending on, like, she has a very good credit score of 750, so she's going to have a very low interest rate. So once you get past the down payment, you have to also find out how your closing costs are going to be addressed. Depending on which market you're in is going to determine whether or not the seller is going to be willing to help you with that closing cost, or if you're going to have to pay it yourself. So she said she had 250,000. That's the home that she was purchasing. Okay. Now, depending on if she was using the FHA loan, because she doesn't explain which loan she's using, whether it's an FHA loan or whether or not it's a conventional loan. A FHA loan, you only have to put a minimum of 3.5% down. With a conventional loan, they have tweaked the guidelines over the year to now you can put down as little as 3% with some conventional loans. But the standard used to be you had to put down 10% with most conventional loans. And in many cases, people use conventional loans nowadays. Sometimes they're doing the 5% method. So on a $250,000 home, let's say she put 5% down, that would be $12,500. She says she had $20,000 saved up. So that's already going to use the bulk of that. Then you have your closing costs to take into consideration. Now, closing costs varies. Okay, closing costs can be anywhere from 4% up to 6%. It just depends. So we're going to say that's another 5%. So when you look at 5%, 5%, that's 10%. On a $250,000 home, that's $25,000 that she would actually have to come up with. So she already is paying her down payment, which she has to, is mandatory, unless she's in a program, a down payment assistance program, and then she has to pay her closing costs. So she actually has to bring money to the table. So whenever you're buying a home, please do not just factor in the down payment, because you do have closing costs that you have to pay for. So please always keep that in mind. And if in a situation where you have more money to put down on your down payment, the more money you put down on your down payment, the lower your mortgage payment is going to be. So it'll probably be better to do that, because it's very in the very beginning. So when you knock those out, just in case, like, again, I don't know what kind of loan they're using, but some people, when they buy a home, they refinance after 6 months. Some people are using interest-only programs. So those things can alter your monthly payment. So again, if you have the money to put down a substantial amount on the down payment, I will definitely do that. But I will also speak with your local lender who's helping you finance that home, because they see your total financial picture and they can advise you properly, more properly. Okay, someone said, is it in the buyer's best interest to use the inspection person that the realtor recommends? Is it in the buyer's best interest to use the inspection person that the realtor recommends? Normally, when you use the home inspection company that the real estate agent recommends, a lot of times because that realtor has a business relationship with that home inspection company, they sometimes give discounts to their clients. So I will always say, yes, it is in the best interest, but at the same time, if you don't feel comfortable, shop around. Again, you can always compare prices. It would not hurt just to speak to the realtors, home inspection company, see what they're talking about, and then if you feel like okay, you can get a better deal somewhere else, you can. But sometimes some home inspection companies, because they have relationships with realtors, they normally give their clients a discount. I know that mines do. Mine always give a nice discount, and also mine includes a free a free termite inspection with the home inspection. So I would say yes, it's in the best interest for the buyer to use the realtor's home inspection company. But at the same time, if you feel uncomfortable, please shop around. Someone also said, are there other housing programs similar to NACA? Are there other housing programs similar to NACA? The answer to that is yes, depending on where you are located at. These programs are always, affiliated. They're locally. These are local programs. Like in the state of Maryland, they have the MMP program. NACA is a nationwide program. If you all are not familiar with NACA, go to NACA.com. If you're in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, I have a great NACA representative who specializes in the entire DMV area, who can assist you, guide you, direct you in all directions. But there are similar programs. Then also in DC, you have HPAC, you have EHAP, you also have DC Opens Doors, and then in Virginia, you have Virginia a VHB program. So there are similar programs to NACA, but the difference with NACA is they don't base it off your credit. So because NACA does not base it off your credit, and they tend to make sure that you are fully educated, and you have to go through the process, which normally takes anywhere from 6 months to a year. So NACA kind of sticks out compared to a lot of the other ones, because a lot of the other programs are down payment assistance programs or closing cost assistance programs. So the other ones are similar, but they're not as, structured or detailed as NACA is. NACA is nationwide. The other ones are normally locally. Someone said, is debt consolidation good or bad for your credit? Is debt consolidation good or bad for your credit? That's a good question. I'm not a credit specialist. I always say debt consolidation, it just depends on where people are in their life when it pertains to their whole financial situation. Debt consolidation is good as far as minimizing things, but sometimes depending on how your debt consolidation is done, because sometimes they're done in the form of bankruptcies, it cannot be good for your credit, because once you do that, it hits your credit. It tends to have an impact on your credit. But I'm going to let my credit specialist answer that one, because she can probably elaborate more on that. Someone said, is it ever a good idea to hard money loan? Is it ever a good idea to use hard money loan? The answer to that is yes. It depends on your situation. It depends on what property you're purchasing. If you're purchasing a home for your primary residential, no, I would not recommend using a hard money lender. If you're purchasing an investment property, in which is a property that you plan on renovating and flipping, yes, and you don't have the money, and you need the means of money, yes, but it's best that you do the math, because hard money lenders, they're going to charge you a good fee. They're going to make sure that they get paid, and time is always of the essence when you're dealing with hard money lenders. So it is a good idea to use it if you're planning on using it for an investment property and you don't have the funds and you really want to, get into flipping homes and everything. It is a good idea, but it's not a good idea to use on a primary residential or rental property, because you're being charged per day. Is there a certain amount of credit cards you should or should not have when purchasing a home? Is there a certain amount of credit cards you should or should not have when purchasing a home? That's a good question. I don't think it's all about the number of credit cards. It's more so about the debt to income ratio. Meaning, for example, if you have credit cards that each have 5,000 credit limits and they're all maxed out, then that's not good, because that makes your debt extremely high. And you can have 3 credit cards that have $5,000 limit, and that's a total of 15,000. Then you can have 10 credit cards that only have a $500 limit, and that's only a total of 5,000. So I don't think it's the number of credit cards. I think it's your debt to income ratio. But we'll also pose that question to my guest who's coming up. Someone says, is there a number as to how many people you can have on a mortgage loan when applying? Is there a number as to how many people you can have on a mortgage loan when applying? There is a number. I believe it's 3. I would actually ask a lender to double check. I believe it's 3 because normally there's the borrower and the co-borrower, and sometimes I know I've seen situations where there's been another co-borrower, but I don't think you have more than 3 people on one loan because, I mean, normally they expect at least 1 or 2 people to be able to be approved for that loan. Which is worse for your credit if you're looking to purchase a home in 1 to 2 years, a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13? Which is worse for your credit if you're looking to purchase a home in 1 to 2 years, a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13? A Chapter 7 is actually worse than a Chapter 13, because a Chapter 7, first of all, stays longer on your credit than 1 or 2 years after, date of discharge. A Chapter 13 is basically similar to a consolidation, but you have to pay on time for up to 1 or 2 years. So the worst one will be a Chapter 7 if you're looking to purchase a home in 1 to 2 years. Someone said, are there lines of credit necessary to give your credit score a quick bump up? Are there lines of credit necessary to give your credit score a quick bump up? I'm going to save that question also for my credit specialist who's coming on. Another question is, does checking your credit score pull your credit score down? Does checking your credit score pull your credit score down? If you check first of all, everyone has a free annual credit report that you can get. Now, you have to pay for your credit scores in most cases. Now, when you, the owner, check your own credit score, it's considered a soft inquiry. When you, the owner, check your own credit score, it's considered a soft inquiry. If you let someone else pull your credit score other than you, the owner, is going to consider be a hard inquiry, and that can, in most cases, bring your credit score down. But if you yourself check your own credit score, then that's considered a soft inquiry, and that's not really going to affect your credit score. But if you allow someone else to do it, because sometimes when people say check your credit score, that means they go ask someone else to pull it. That can bring your credit score down because it will be considered a hard inquiry. So let me see. Did I get all the questions? Oh, one more question. When a finance company checks your credit to see if you qualify and you're receiving your down payment from a family member, is there a time period that the money has to sit in the buyer's account? When a finance company checks your credit to see if you're qualified and you're receiving your down payment from a family member, is there a time period that the money has to sit in the buyer's account? Normally with that, the money has to be in the account prior to you actually buying a house because they have to verify that. Underwriting verifies everything. They like to check out where money has come in, has gone out. So they need to verify that. So I would say if you're going to settlement on a certain day, I would suggest you have at least 2 weeks. Don't put it in at the last moment. Let's say the day of settlement, and then you need $25,000. The family member sends it to you. Underwriter is going to wonder where that $25,000 has come from because it was not sitting in your account prior to them underwriting the file. So it will always be wise for you to put that money in as soon as possible. That way, when underwriting is verifying everything, that it doesn't come up as a red flag, because it can come up as a red flag and delay your settlement. So those are all good questions. Let me see. Do I have any questions over here? And yes, all is well. Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm going to bring on Benita Grant, who is a credit guru that I call her. She is the CEO of Cure My Credit Score 700. The reason why it's called Cure My Credit Score 700 is because she's been doing this for a long time, you all. And actually, she does my credit. She's been doing my credit score for over 9 years. I think I started working with her back in 2014. And the reason why I started working with her was because prior to her, I was dealing with a credit repair company. They was taking money. They wasn't doing the job. They would send these letters, tell you to mail them out yourself. And me, I got so busy, I wouldn't always mail them out. So therefore, they was collecting my money, but they weren't doing the job for me. Benita came along, told me what I needed to do. And as long as you follow what she says, you have to follow what she says, you all, because she's told me things and I haven't listened. And then she told me things that I have listened. So you have to follow what she said. As long as you follow what she says, she can get your credit score up to a 700 within 6 to 9 months. As long as you follow what she says. If you don't follow what she says, then you can't blame anyone but yourself. And I am a living testimony. So I always refer her to all of my clients because I would not do business with anyone. I would not want to send my clients to anyone that I wouldn't want to do business with. So when I first met her, she started to work on my credit. She boosted my credit score up so quickly. I was like kind of amazed, because she told me to do this, to do that. I applied for this. I got like a $7,500 credit card. And I was like, whoa, all just because I listened to the guru. I call her a guru. So give me 1 second, y'all. I'm going to bring on Benita Grant of Cure My Credit Score 700. If you all have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll be right back. Benita, can you hear me? Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry about that. Hey.
No. You're good. You're good. Thank you for joining me. As always, you were with me last year on episode 30 on October the 7th, 2022. And there was a lot of people who had a lot of questions. And, I referred a few people from that show to you. So talk to me. Tell me, any and everything. And then I have a few questions for you. Once you
I heard the questions. You have some great questions. Your viewers are very interactive. I love it.
Yes.
So yes, my name is Benita Grant. I own Cure My Credit Scores, and we help people get their scores up so they can buy a house. We guarantee that we can get you to a 700 or greater as long as you do everything we say. And everything we say is two things. One is um, no new negative items while you're in our program, like no new late payments, no new collections, and then you have to keep your credit cards between 1 and 10%. And our education is super important to me. I was a teacher for 10 years in the DC and Boston public schools before I started my company. And I just really believe that we're judged on credit, but like they just don't explain it. And I really am big on explaining how credit works because I feel like I don't know why they don't explain it. They give us cards, but they don't tell us how to use them so that we get good credit. So
Yeah, I remember when I was in college and I was walking past this table and it was in a student lounge and the table everybody was filling out things. So this guy stopped me. He was like, "Hey, get a credit card." I said, "I don't have a job." He said, "You're going to school. That's your job right there." So this was back in I'm telling my age right here, but this was back in '92. So so when I filled it out, I ended up I wasn't even thinking about it. I just filled it out real quick, walked away. When I got home from school, I had a Discover card with a $1,000 limit waiting
awesome.
on me. And I
Yeah.
was awesome. I was like, whoa. So of course, I was like 20, I think I was like 19 or 20 years old at the time. I got $1,000 credit card. I went shopping like it was nothing. Then when the payment
Yeah.
was
He was like,
due,
I got a free $1,000.
yeah, then when the payment was due, at that time I didn't have a job. I was like, oh my goodness. They didn't explain that. Like you said, they don't explain everything to you. They just tell you how to get it, but nothing else afterwards. So go ahead and talk
Yeah.
to it.
No, it's real. It's real. Um, I want to answer the questions. How
Okay.
much time do I have?
Oh, you have some time. You have some time. So yeah, so you want me to go through these questions that I had?
Yeah, we can go through those questions, but I also want to give a little bit of education too, if I could share my screen.
Yes. Let me see.
Mm-mm-mm. All right. So, let's see. Can you see my screen? I don't think so. Not yet.
Not yet.
Um, okay. So I shared it, but I think you have to
Hold on, let me see.
click on it to let people see it.
Oh, right here. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. All right. So I want to quickly go over the cost of not so good credit, right? Credit is, I tell people all the time, like a lot of times when you don't have great credit, it has a lot of times it's very emotional and it's connected to something that's happened that wasn't so good. So sometimes people have not so great credit because they lost their job, they got hurt, a divorce, they were depressed, they just didn't know what was going on. And so a lot of times even dealing with the credit is emotional, especially when you don't have not so good credit. So I just wanted to talk about like the cost of not having great credit, right? So these are numbers from 2000. So cars cost a little bit more than this now, but I
Hmm.
just want to give you like the gist of it, right?
Okay.
So this is a Toyota, a brand new Toyota, $23,000. Person A has a 730 credit score, right? They most likely will have an interest rate right about now, about a 4.5 percent interest rate. Their monthly payments will be about $429 for this beautiful brand new car, right? Which
Hmm.
means that after the 60 months, they're going to be paying about $2,727 of interest on this car. So altogether, they'll be paying about $25,000 for this car. Person B doesn't have the best credit score, right? They have like a 599. Their interest
Hmm.
rate will most likely be like 18%. I've seen it go as high as like 23%, right? But
Wow.
even if it was just at 18%, their monthly payments would be about $584 a month, which means after 6 months, 16 months, they'll be paying $12,000 in interest on top of what they paid for the car. So for the same car, they'll be paying $34,000. Okay. And we're just talking about cars here. So when we look at how your credit affects you buying a house and how much more you're going to be spending on the house by not, working on your credit and getting it to where it needs to be, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. Okay.
Wow.
So it's super important to try to get your credit as high as possible before you purchase your house. Now, a lot of people think that fixing your credit takes years, you know, but it doesn't have to take years, right? Um, there is a way to do it within months. Okay.
Okay.
So the way your credit works, I love to explain this. I'm going to go over the first two and then I'm going to answer some questions.
Okay.
Please put in the comments your questions. I love credit. Credit is my jam. This like makes me excited. So if you have any questions, please put it in the comments. I want to give you as much information as possible so that you can win this credit game. Okay. So 35% of your score just has to do with your payment history. That's like how you pay your bills. So anything negative like late payments, charge-offs, collections, foreclosures, bankruptcies, anything negative affects this 35%. Now, so what my company does is we dispute those negative items to try to get them off of your credit report. It doesn't matter if you actually were late or that actually was your bankruptcy. There's a law called the Fair Credit Reporting Act that says that everything on your credit report has to be accurate, reporting timely information and verifiable. And a lot of times they throw this stuff on your credit report and they don't follow the rules to keep it on your credit report. People look at their credit reports, people, they spell your name wrong, they don't have your address correct, they don't have the correct amount that you owe. Those are things that we use to get those negative items off of your credit report. Once they come off your credit report, they stay off your credit report. Okay. Now, one way you can help this 35% is whenever you have an open account and you're paying it on time, it positively affects this 35%. So if you're paying an auto loan on time or a credit card or a student loan or a mortgage, it positively helps this 35%. But it's not equal. It's not like if I pay my auto loan on time this month and I pay late next month, it washes each other out, right? No,
Uh-huh.
they want you to be in the 98 percentile when it comes to paying things on time. Okay.
Mhm.
Above the 98 percentile. So if let's say you have 100 on time payments, like you've been paying your car on time for years, or you've been paying your student loans on time for years, you have
Mhm.
100 on time payments and you get one late payment, your
Right.
scores could drop, 20 to 40 points, right?
That's ridiculous.
Then you get two late payments, your scores could drop 100 points.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. It's like they want you to be in the high percentage of on-time payments, okay? So
Right.
that's the biggest category of your credit report. The second biggest category of your credit report is only has to do with your credit cards, okay? 30% of your credit report only has to do with your credit cards. So that means if you don't have credit cards, you're missing out on 30% of your credit automatically. It's like if you were in class and the teacher said the final exam is worth 30%, you can do well in every other part of the class. But if you miss the final exam, the most you can get is the 70s, a C. You cannot get A plus credit unless you have credit cards.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Those
And
two must have a huge percentage combined. That's 65%.
exactly. And when a lot of, we've grown up hearing credit cards are the devil, credit cards are bad, credit cards are, don't get any credit cards. That's how you mess up your credit. But it's not, you actually need credit cards to have good credit. I've been doing this for I think 8 years now, and I've only seen one person be in the 700s um, without having any credit cards, and he was in his 70s. He had mortgages, he had car notes, he had a whole bunch of other stuff on his credit report, but no credit cards, and was in the 70s. So to get to those good scores, you do need credit cards, but it's not just about having cards. You have to keep the cards very low. Okay.
Right.
So taking your example, Damon, let's say you got $1,000 credit card and you went and spent $500 on that card. You'd
Hmm.
be at 50% utilization of that card. Anytime you're above 30%, it hurts your credit. Anytime you're above 30%, it hurts your credit. The closer you are to the limit, the more it hurts your credit. If you were ever over the limit of your credit card, it affects your credit report that month like almost as bad as a bankruptcy. I've seen
Oh,
people's
wow.
scores drop 100 points because they were over the limit on a $200 credit card. Okay.
That's crazy.
It doesn't matter if you're over the limit on a $200 credit card or a $10,000 credit card. If you are over the limit on a credit card, it is going to damage your scores. So when you're trying to buy a house, you want to be way under the limit. You want to keep your credit cards closer to the 10%, way under 30%, closer to 10%. And Damon will tell you this firsthand. It's like when you get it down to that 10%, your scores change. It feels different when you see those scores jump to that high. You never want to go back above 10%, right, Damon?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's
Unless you have
true.
those automatic, unless you have those automatic debits. Come, I had to turn off all my automatic, payments
Very
because
good.
sometimes you will forget, and that will take you over the 10 percentile mark. And then sometimes that miscellaneous things that you don't even actually use anymore, but everyone wants you to do auto pay these days. So that was one of the conscious decisions that I recently made, that I don't care about the $5 discount or whatever. I'm not doing auto pay. I don't want to do auto pay. The only thing I have on auto pay is my life insurance and my car insurance.
See, well, I like autopay. I think autopay is good because it's first of all, I have a lot of credit cards and I have a lot of, I run my business, so I have a lot of things I have to manage. So autopay
Hmm.
works for me because I never want to late payment. But I
Hmm.
do agree that you shouldn't have autopay on your credit cards, especially if your credit cards are not. If you have a $10,000 credit card, 10% of that is $1,000, right?
Right,
Then you can have autopay on that $10,000 credit card. But you don't
right,
need to have autopay on a $500 credit card or a
right.
$1,000 credit card. Or auto pay would work with like a debit card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do recommend auto pay because the last thing you want in life is a late payment because you forgot about something, right? But just like Damon said, make sure it's on a card that can handle that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
10% is where you want to keep your number at. But I know that seems low, but you can actually be too low. So 10% of $1,000 is $100. So what I'm saying is never spend more than $100 on $1,000 credit card, right?
No.
I know that's low, but you can actually be too low. Anytime you're below 1%, it becomes neutral. It's kind of like it's not helping you or hurting you. I've seen people's scores drop 50 points because they paid their cards down to zero. So you
Hmm.
want to keep a balance on it, but just not too high. Okay.
Okay.
So with $1,000 credit card, you're looking at between $10 and $100 at all times. All times does mean all times. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to charge it up to 500 and then pay it down to 100 before the bill is due, and I'll be fine. The problem with that is you do not know when they're going to report the limit and balance to the credit bureaus. Just because you pay your bill on the 17th of the month doesn't mean that that's when they report it. They can report it on the 10th of the month, this
Mm-hmm.
month, on the 5th of the month, next month, on the 7th of the month after. They don't want you to know their equation. So they're not going to tell you. They're not going to report it at the exact same time each month. So
Right.
when you're working on buying a house or making a big decision with your credit, like buying a car or anything like that, you want
Mm-hmm.
to get all your cards down to between 1% and 10% and leave it there. Okay.
Okay. That's good. That's good
Now,
information.
yes, there are two exceptions to that rule. One is if the card is older than 7 years. If you had a card for longer than 7 years, then you can keep it between 0 and 10%. And then the other exception is if it's a store card like a Macy's card or Old Navy card, a card you can only use at that store, then you can keep it between 0 and 10%. But at all the rest of the cards, 1 to 10% is your magic number.
Okay. Great. 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 Let me ask you some of these questions that were posed to me, and you can answer them.
Yeah,
Um.
that debt consolidation question, I got a lot of opinions.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, that's number one. Is debt consolidation good or bad for your credit?
Okay, so there are two levels of debt consolidation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's one level that we hear on the radio all the time, like um join this company if you owe, $10,000 in debt. Will help you consolidate it so that you're not owing so much, right? So what that looks like, a lot of these companies, what they have you do is they have you stop paying on your bills, right? So let's say you have a $10,000 credit card and a $5,000 credit card and you're maxed out and you don't want to you don't have the money to pay them down, and you join this debt consolidation company. They're going to say stop paying on these two cards until it goes into collections. Once it goes into collections, then we're going to settle for less, and then we'll give you a loan to pay off these collections, and then now you won't have any more debt. You'll just have the loan with us. Let's say the $15,000 we settle for $5,000. Now you have a loan with us, and then you pay us over the course of time, right? The
Right.
problem with that is when people stop paying on their bills, they have to move from 30 days late to 60 days late to 90 days late to 120 days late to 180 days late. Once you remember, 30-day late could cost you 20 to 80 points. 60-day late can cost you 100 points. When you get into the collection, when you get into 180 days late on an account, you're like in the low fives, 400 scores. So um a lot of these companies, yes, you now don't owe the $15,000. Now you only owe $5,000 to them,
Mhm.
but now you have credit that you can't use. Now you have 400 scores, and it doesn't look good, right? And it takes a long time to come back from a well, it could take a long time. I can show you some examples of 400s go into 700s in 5 months. It doesn't have to take a long time, but I don't recommend that type of debt consolidation because it does ruin your credit in the process, right? Now, the
Right.
other debt consolidation is like if you go to your bank and you say to your bank, um, Navy Federal, like let's say I had a client do this recently because he was trying to buy a house. He had a $20,000 credit card and he was at like 17,000.
Mm-hmm.
His scores were in the mid sixes, and he wanted to get his scores higher, but and he wanted to buy a house, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he had a Navy Federal card. He went to Navy Federal and asked them for a loan to pay off his credit cards.
Okay.
Navy Federal gave him a debt consolidation loan at a lower interest rate than he was getting with his credit card. He used that money to pay down the credit card. His scores jumped from the mid sixes to the mid sevens because now he didn't have that heavy weight of the credit card. Remember, I showed you that was 30%.
Right.
It released a lot of the pressure on his credit report, and he
Right.
moved to the mid sevens, right? So that's
Hmm.
another way of debt consolidation. Another way is to get a credit card. Again, you have to have like at least above a 600 usually to do this. Is to get a credit card that allows you to move some of the debt from other credit cards. It's a debt consolidation credit card to
Hmm.
this new credit card. I always suggest to do that in business credit, and we'll talk about that on another session because business credit is a whole another world that I love talking about.
Okay.
Um, but I do suggest that if you're gonna do debt consolidation, of course, then the last way is through bankruptcy, right? Which I don't recommend unless you have a business and you're like 100,000 in the debt or something above that. I understand bankruptcy, but if it's like less than 20 or something that you can have happen in the next 2 years, I don't suggest bankruptcy.
Right.
So I don't know. I hope I answered that question well.
Yes, I understood it. Another one, and you're talking about bankruptcy. Another question was, which is worse for your credit if you're looking to purchase a home in 1 or 2 years, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13?
Well, I definitely agree with you, Damon, on that. I think chapter 7 hurts you longer. And then as you, with a chapter 13, I'm not sure right now, Damon, you probably know the answer to this, but I know in the past that there are loans that once you complete your chapter 13, you can actually go for it. You
Yeah,
know,
once discharged, it's from discharge. Yes. Hmm.
yes. And with a chapter 7, even when you complete it, you still have to wait most
Yeah.
likely 2 years to 3 years to 4 years to buy a house,
Yeah.
depending on what type of loan you're going for.
Yeah. 2 to 4 years. Yeah. And another question was, are lines of credit necessary to give your score a quick bump up?
Okay, that's a great question. So yeah, there are ways that you can jump your score tremendously. Let me go back to showing my screen. Um so a lot of people, the way that you can bump your scores quickly with a line of credit. Okay, so we talked about 35% of your. Is it shaking for you? It's weird.
Yeah, I see it doing it,
Um,
but it's it's cool.
35% of your score being your payment history, 30% of your score being your credit cards, and
Hmm.
then 15% of your score has to do with how old your credit is, right? So it's looking at um, all of your open accounts and it's averaging the age. So let's say you only had two open accounts. You had a car note that was 2 years old, right?
Hmm.
And you had a credit card that's 10 years old, right?
Hmm.
So those are the only two open accounts on your credit report. So a 10-year-old credit card and a 2-year-old auto loan. So you're going to take 2 plus 10 is 12. You divide it by 2 to get an average of 6 years, right? Anytime your credit, the average is older than 7 years, that's how you can get to the 800 scores, okay?
Okay.
So what a way to jump your scores tremendously is to add more years on your credit, right? So let's say you had an auntie um, that had an older credit card, like a 10-year-old credit card, right?
Hmm.
And she added you as an authorized user. Remember, she has to keep that credit card at all times between 0 and 10% because it's older than 7 years. So 0 to 10%, and no late payments on that credit card. If she added you to a 10-year-old credit card, that only that one credit card will show up on your credit report. So she added you as an authorized user. A credit card would come to her house with your name on it.
Hmm.
Tell her to cut the card up. Very important. I always say this. Tell her to cut the card up, right? You're
Right.
not going to use the card. You're not going to use this $10,000 or anything like that. And you actually don't want her to use it either. So
Hmm.
ask her to cut it up. The reason why I say you don't want her to use it is because if anything ever happens and she uses that card, and let's say she she uses that card and let's just be dramatic and she passes away, right?
Right.
Um, if you call, let's say to Discover Card, if you call Discover and say, I just noticed there's a authorized user account on my credit report. I never authorized that. I never, I never wanted that. Please remove it. Let's say she, before she died, she charged it up to $5,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
If she used that card one time for $5, you're on the hook for that $5,000. If there has never been any use of that card ever, then you're not on the hook for any of the balance if your aunt, passes away. So always just putting that out there, just always ask them to cut the card up
Mm-hmm.
when they add you as an authorized user, right?
Okay.
So going back to how this helps your credit report. So 10 years is added, right? That 10-year-old card is added to your credit report. So that's going to help with 80% of your score because they're going to add 10 years of positive monthly payments. They're going to add to this 30% because the card is between 0 and 10% utilized, and because they're adding 10 years, that's going to move your 12 years, right? Because you had a 10-year-old card and a 2-year auto loan,
Mm-hmm.
plus it's 10 years. Now you're at 22 years. 22 years divided by 3, because now there's 3 cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is a little bit over 7 years, right?
Right.
So literally that card could jump your scores. That 10-year-old card could jump your scores 50 to 100 points, depending on all the rest of the stuff on your credit report.
And it's
So
the 15%. It's in the 15% category.
yep, because it helps with this 15%, this 30%, and this 35%. So, but the other thing about that is you gotta trust the person who's adding you as an authorized user, because if they start to charge this card up and don't tell you, then it's gonna affect your score, right?
Okay. I
If
get it.
they get a late payment and they don't warn you before and it shows up on your credit report as a late payment, it's gonna affect your score.
Right.
So you have to also they have to know what you're up to and and they have to like let you know in advance, say, Benita, I'm gonna have to use this card this month, I'm gonna remove you from it, so it doesn't hurt your credit report. So you got to be an open conversation. It's a temporary fix. I don't think authorized users are long-term fixes unless it's somebody who never uses the card but like once a year.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
I answered this question, but I asked it to you. I ask it to you also. Um, Someone said, "What if I know my credit, but I don't know what it means?" I don't even know what that is. What if I know my credit, but I don't know what it means?
um I can speculate what the question is asking. So there are most people look at their credit using Credit Karma,
Hmm.
and Credit Karma is a credit score. A lot of people are like, they're not giving the correct credit score. They actually are giving a credit score, but it's not the score that the loan officers look at, right? There
All
are
right.
3 different credit scores. There's your mortgage score, your auto loan score, and your credit card scores, right?
Hmm.
And Credit Karma is judging your credit card scores. As you can see on Credit Karma, they're always offering you credit cards because they're judging your credit card score.
Hmm.
So when you're looking to buy a house, you need to know what your loan score, your mortgage score is. And the only real way to find out what your mortgage score is to, contact your agent, contact Damon, and have him connect you to the loan officer. The loan officer is going to tell you what your mortgage score is. A lot of time your mortgage score is a little bit lower than your credit card score. With your credit card score, they're trying to see if you can handle $200 to $30,000, right? With your mortgage score, they're trying to see if you can handle 50,000 to $1,000,000. So they're looking at things a little bit different, and so that's why your mortgage score is a little bit lower than your credit card score. It's not that Credit Karma is incorrect; it's just not your mortgage score.
Okay. Okay. Someone also said, "Does checking your credit score pull your credit score down?"
No, when you check, you answer that question exactly correct, Damon. When you check your own credit score using Credit Karma or Identity IQ or My FICO or something like that, it's called a soft pull, and it does not hurt your credit score. When any bank checks your credit report, it's a hard pull. You're allowed to have hard pulls. So when you are buying a house, they have to do an inquiry. There's no way possible that you can get a bank to give you a loan unless they do a hard inquiry. You're allowed to get hard inquiries, but if it's excessive, like you have more than like 5 in a 5-month period, then it's gonna start bringing down your scores. So we always say when you're about to buy a house, do not pull your credit at all. Just work with your team. So if your loan officer has to pull your credit, that's fine. If your credit advisor has to pull your credit, that's fine. But do not go and look at furniture and have them pull your credit or do anything else. Go to Costco because now you got this beautiful new score. Wait until after you get the keys to the house.
Yeah, yeah. Advice. That's good advice. So yeah, so what well, first of all, I see your number right there that people could get in contact with you. If anyone wants to reach out to you, how could they reach out to you besides your phone number right there?
Yes. Yep. My phone number is right here. You can also go directly on our website, curemycreditscores.com. And then you can schedule an appointment so we can look directly at your credit report and come up with a game plan. If you are working with Damon, he'll send you right over. The best thing I always say is if you know your credit is in the fives, then come straight to me. But if you don't know what your credit is, go to Damon first and then have the loan officer pull it because you might not be as bad as you think you are. But if you're in the fives, then just come over and then we'll fix it and then you can go back.
Or if they're in the six and they want to improve their credit scores, or if they just want to improve their credit scores to, get a lower interest rate on their credit cards or get a lower interest rate on their car payments or, just in general. I mean, your company offers great service and you give great advice. Like I told
Thank
people
you, Damon.
before you came on, as long as they listen to you, because I've been a hard headed client, so I'm not going to lie, but I've also done what you said and I've seen the results. So that's why I always emphasize because a lot of times when I speak to people and they're looking for, oh, my credit's not good and they want to work on it, or I spoke with a credit specialist and they always ask me this question too. They say, well, how much does she charge? And I'm like, well, I know she doesn't charge like the other people charge because I know there's some ridiculous prices out here. But I say also you have to hold a conversation with her so she can analyze your personal situation to advise you from there. But at the same time, I say it's not always about the price, it's about the results that you're looking to get. So like you said,
Get
credit,
results.
yeah, credit is critical. And that's why last week I was on here, I was talking about credit matters because credit can get you in a room that sometimes cash can't. Like when people don't
Yeah,
know you, they don't know you, but then they've heard of you. You understand? Just because the reputation was get you open doors for you. And it's the same with the credit. When your credit is good, your reputation is good as far as people before you even get to
that's
places.
so
So
true.
that's why I say credit matters because some people don't care because they content. They got their house, they got their car. They don't care if their credit is messed up. But the funny thing about life is we don't know which way it's going to turn. See, everything can be great
Hmm.
today and then turn around bad tomorrow. And then because you didn't do certain things, you're putting yourself in a bad situation. So I like to bring up this credit all the time because it's critical to us. You know what I'm saying? Just like what
Yes,
happened yesterday, Cash App just went down. So when that like I heard it was a lot of people who couldn't access their money because of the digital world that we live in. But when you start to think about stuff and everything, one thing I wish that all these hackers, whatever they doing, they need to go to the bureaus and fix everybody's credit.
put it out there, right?
Look, they out there doing something because they didn't
Help us
froze.
out.
Listen, do something. But nevertheless, it's great having you as
Thank
always.
you.
I'll be in touch soon because I need to make an appointment because I've been being hard headed, but we're not going to talk about that on air. But
I
yes,
know.
Benita information is right there. Also, if you like she said, you can go to her website, curemycreditscore.com. That's correct.
Yes.
And her phone number is right there, 617-955-4599. I always tell people when I give them your number, if you don't answer the phone, please shoot her a text. She will respond back to you. And I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and knowledge to
Anytime. Thank you,
everyone,
Damon.
because we all need to, like, the advice that I give out is free, but I know it costs. You know what I'm saying? So people could be paying for this information that we're giving out, but we're sharing it with people. Hopefully, they get the message and they do what they need to do to improve things in their
Because
life.
everyone deserves good credit. It changes your game. It makes you walk different. You walk into places different when you got a 700.
You can go to a restaurant and order up a $400 bill and don't care because you know it's gonna get paid with that credit card. Exactly. If your credit card is iffy and your cash and your credit is high on that credit card, you're gonna be praying that it goes through. And if it don't go through, it's a problem. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, But I appreciate you, Benita, as always. I thank you, and
Thank you.
we shall be talking to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day and great weekend.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you all. Thank you all. That was Benita Grant with Cure My Credit Score. She's very good. She's awesome. She deals with my credit score. Like I said, she's been dealing with it for years. We have a monthly check in that I need to check in with her because I've been so busy doing so much that I've been neglecting certain things. But I strongly recommend her, and I always strongly recommend just holding a conversation with her if you have any questions when it pertains to credit, because of the fact that she can answer anything and she will listen. She's not going to charge you just to hold a conversation with her just to see what your situation is. That's for those who are looking to improve their credit score, because like I said last week and I say now, credit matters, you all. It really does matter. It really does matter. So I'm trying to help everyone to get the best credit score and give you all the best advice as possible, and it's to you for free. So I thank you all for that. And the next topic of the day is outside. This is a topic that I wanted to talk about last week, but time got away from me. But I'm not going to spend long on it and everything. But I just want to say outside, y'all. Think about outside. Right now, the COVID cases are rising everywhere. Please be careful of where you go. Pull your mask back out, people, because even though I see a lot of people during the summertime going to all these events, everybody want to be outside enjoying the weather, except this week because it's been scorching hot. You all have to be mindful. Also understand, going outside costs, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Every time you step outside, it's a minimum of $100 you spend it. Especially if you eat out, you got to get gas. Outside costs a lot. It's costing you time, and it could cost you your health, because of the fact is the cases are rising with COVID. So when you're outside, I want you to keep a lot of things in mind. First of all, be, what I'm saying, mindful of the fact that COVID is on the rise. Pull your mask out. I know, like, we don't like the mask, but they're going to start mandating it anyway, especially as the cases keep going up. So take your mask with you, put it in your pocket, your purse, or whatever. When you're around a crowd of people, please start putting your mask back on. There are too many people who are catching COVID again. They've shut down a couple of schools in Kentucky because of the COVID cases. A lot of people I know who've been working in some of the school system had to go because kids are getting, colleges are being affected by it. The cases are rising, y'all, because of what's going on outside. And also, like I said, outside costs. It costs to be outside. It costs to be outside. You got to use gas, you got to travel. It costs to be outside. Try to stay inside sometime. Have a peace of mind. Sit down. Stop trying to always be seen. You ain't always got to be seen. Some people outside because they want to be seen all the time. Calm down, sit down, chill, and relax, because outside is affecting people. And on top of that, there's a lot of craziness going on outside in the world. They got a lot of youngsters who are carjacking people at random places. I'm not saying that to be afraid to go outside, because you should never fear anything, in this world, but your God. That's the only thing. But at the same time, though, Please be mindful and be safe when you're going outside. And also understand that sometimes you don't have to go outside. You can chill inside. You got you got all these streaming services these days. You got YouTube. You got all these things. You got your social media. Relax sometimes. If you chill sometimes, you'll probably save a lot of time, a lot of stress, and a lot of money just from not going outside. Because when it gets cold outside, you ain't gonna want to go anyway. But I know it's warm right now, so a lot of people want to be seen. But stay inside, y'all, because of the fact that outside is becoming expensive in many ways. It's becoming expensive when it pertains to health. It's becoming expensive when it pertains to safety. Becoming expensive when it pertains to just some people's money and wallets. So relax and stop always being outside. Chill inside sometimes. Sometimes your family members want to just spend some time with you. And I understand sometimes you don't want to be inside because of your family members. But all I'm saying is though is be mindful of what's going on outside because there's a lot going on outside. You know, not just the weather, not just the COVID cases, not just your money, not just the safety, but all of it. So outside is costing people, and I just want to make sure that you're very vigilant when it pertains to what's going on outside. Again, people, please put your mask on. Start wearing your mask. The cases are going up everywhere. If you don't have a mask, order your mask. If you have a mask, wash your mask, and then start to carry your mask with you, especially if you're going outside. And then also, again, and I will emphasize, it costs to go outside. So it's going to cost people money, cash, and it's costing some people safety because of the fact is, there's a lot going on. So chill sometime, people. Sometimes it's best to just relax and to reflect on what you had in life and to reflect on and be thankful that you have life because life is worth living. You don't always have to be outside. So let me end my show by recapping. All right, y'all. Quick recap of today's show. I answered a few questions, in which a lot of the questions were pertaining to credit. So I had my credit specialist come on today. She talked about the ways to, increase your credit score. Her name is Bonita Grant of Cure My Credit Score. Go to that website, curemycreditscore.com, to schedule an appointment. She's very good, very personable, very reasonable. She would tell you what you need to do if you're trying to improve your credit score. Like I said, doesn't necessarily have to be for a house, but at the same time, it could be in relations to just wanting to improve your credit score, to lower your interest rate on your credit cards, to refinance your car, to just have a better credit score, period. When you have good credit, when you have cash or credit, you feel different about yourself compared to when you don't have cash or credit. And if you don't believe me, try getting some cash or credit and you'll understand what I mean. And those who have gotten it, you know what I mean. So what I'm just saying is though is credit matters, you all. And again, remember, stay from outside. You don't always have to be outside to have a good time because going outside may cost you time, money, and energy. But being inside will save you a lot. And starting to get cool soon. So eventually, some of y'all gonna be inside anyway. I thank you all today for joining me on my show, Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live with Damon the Agent. Please follow me on all my social media platforms. You can always slash Damon the Agent on everything. I'm on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm on everything. So please follow me on all my social media platforms. I thank you all every day and every time you will join me on my show where I bring you the latest real estate topics. I talk about something pertaining to real life. It's always going to be real talk coming from me, and I come to you all real live. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and I shall talk to you all soon.